The Trojan War has captivated imaginations for millennia. It is a story of love, betrayal, heroism, and tragedy. The epic poems of Homer, Thee and Thee, have immortalized the conflict. But was the Trojan War a real historical event, or simply a captivating myth? This question has fascinated historians, archaeologists, and classicists for centuries. There is no easy answer. The evidence is tantalizing, but incomplete. We are left to grapple with a fascinating puzzle, piecing together fragments of fact and fiction. The Trojan War, as recounted in Greek mythology, was a 10-year siege of the city of Troy by a coalition of Greek forces. The conflict was sparked by the abduction of Helen, wife of Menelaus, king of Sparta, by the Trojan prince Paris. The Greeks, led by Agamemnon, brother of Menelaus, assembled a vast army and sailed across the Aegean Sea to reclaim Helen and punish the Trojans. The war became a clash of titans, with legendary heroes like Achilles, Hector, Ajax, and Odysseus battling for glory and survival. The story of the Trojan War, as told by Homer and other ancient poets, is a compelling blend of mythology and human drama. But can we separate fact from fiction? Did a real city of Troy exist? Did a Trojan War actually take place? These are the questions that continue to fuel scholarly debate. To understand the potential historicity of the Trojan War, we must first delve into its mythological roots. The ancient Greeks believed that their gods and goddesses actively intervened in human affairs. Troy, a powerful city-state located in Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, held a prominent place in Greek mythology. It was said to have been founded by Ilus, son of Tros, after whom the city was named. The Trojan War itself was instigated by a divine dispute. Eris, the goddess of discord, angered at being excluded from a wedding feast, tossed a golden apple inscribed to the fairest among the goddesses. Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite each claimed the apple, leading to a beauty contest judged by the Trojan prince Paris. Paris, swayed by Aphrodite's promise to grant him the love of the most beautiful woman in the world, awarded her the apple. Aphrodite, true to her word, helped Paris abduct Helen, wife of Menelaus, thus sparking the Trojan War. The mythological elements of the Trojan War story are undeniable. However, these myths may have been woven around a core of historical truth. The ancient Greeks believed in the historicity of the Trojan War. They venerated the heroes of the conflict and pointed to geographical locations associated with the story. Could their belief in a real Trojan War have stemmed from a genuine historical memory? The search for the historical Troy began in earnest in the 19th century with the work of Heinrich Schliemann, a German businessman and amateur archaeologist. Schliemann, captivated by Homer's epic since childhood, was convinced that Troy was a real place, not just a figment of poetic imagination. He believed that Homer's descriptions of Troy and its surroundings contained geographical clues that could lead to its discovery. In 1868, Schliemann began excavations at Hisarlik, a mound in northwestern Turkey that matched Homer's geographical descriptions of Troy's location. His excavations uncovered a series of ancient settlements, layered one atop another, spanning millennia. Schliemann was convinced that he had found the ruins of Troy, and he announced his discovery to the world with great fanfare. His claims were initially met with skepticism from the academic community, but subsequent excavations would prove him right. Schliemann's methods were often crude and destructive by modern archaeological standards. He was driven by a passionate, some might say obsessive, desire to find evidence for the Trojan War as described by Homer. Despite his shortcomings, Schliemann's work at Hisarlik marked a turning point in the search for the historical Troy. He had brought to light a site of immense archaeological significance and reignited the debate about the historicity of the Trojan War. Following Schliemann's pioneering work, Hisarlik has been the subject of numerous archaeological expeditions. These excavations have revealed a complex picture of the site's long and tumultuous history. Troy, it turns out, was not a single city, but rather a succession of settlements built, destroyed, and rebuilt over thousands of years. Archaeologists have identified at least 10 distinct layers of occupation at Hisarlik, each representing a different phase in the city's history. The layer that most closely corresponds to the time period of the Trojan War, as traditionally dated to the 13th century BC, is known as Troy Daitya. This layer shows evidence of widespread destruction by fire, consistent with a major conflict. Furthermore, archaeologists have unearthed weapons, armor, and human remains from this layer, hinting at a violent end to the city. The archaeological evidence from Hisarlik supports the notion that a real city of Troy existed and that it suffered a catastrophic destruction around the time of the Trojan War as described in Greek mythology. However, the evidence does not definitively prove that the war happened exactly as Homer described it. The archaeological record can provide tantalizing clues, but it cannot tell us the whole story. The Trojan War took place, if it took place at all, in a dim and distant past. The events of the war were passed down orally for generations before being written down. In this process of transmission, the story undoubtedly became embellished and transformed. Mythological elements were woven into the historical fabric, blurring the lines between fact and fiction. Homer's epic poems The and Thee are our primary literary sources for the Trojan War. These poems are masterpieces of literature, but they are not historical documents in the modern sense. Homer was a poet, not a historian. His primary goal was to entertain and to explore universal themes of love, war, fate, and human nature. He was not bound by strict adherence to historical accuracy. The, in particular, focuses on a relatively brief period during the Trojan War, the wrath of Achilles and its consequences. Homer's account is filled with dramatic battles, heroic deeds, and divine interventions. While the poem may contain kernels of historical truth, it is impossible to separate them from the layers of myth and poetic license. The presence of vivid and compelling picture of the Trojan War, but it is a picture filtered through the lens of myth and poetic imagination. The poem is populated by larger-than-life heroes, both Greek and Trojan, who display extraordinary strength, courage, and skill in battle. Achilles, the swift-footed warrior, is driven by a fierce pride and a thirst for glory. Hector, the noble prince of Troy, fights bravely to defend his city and his family. The gods and goddesses of the Greek pantheon play an active role in the siding with their favored heroes and influencing the course of the war. Aphrodite protects Paris and Helen, while Hera and Athena support the Greeks. Zeus, the king of the gods, attempts to remain neutral, but even he is drawn into the conflict. While The is a work of fiction, it is important to remember that it was based on a long tradition of oral storytelling. Homer drew upon a vast repertoire of myths, legends, and songs about the Trojan War, passed down through generations of bards. These stories likely contained elements of historical truth, albeit embellished and transformed over time. The Trojan War, whether rooted in history or mythology, continues to fascinate and inspire us. The story has been told and retold countless times in literature, art, music, and film. It speaks to universal human experiences of love, loss, betrayal, courage, and the tragedy of war. The ruins of Troy, now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, attract visitors from around the world. Standing among the ancient stones, one can't help but feel a sense of connection to the past, imagining the clash of armies, the heroism of warriors, and the sorrow of those who lost loved ones. The Trojan War, whether a real historical event or a product of myth-making, has left an indelible mark on Western civilization. It has shaped our understanding of heroism, tragedy, and the enduring power of storytelling. The search for the historical truth behind the Trojan War is a journey into our collective past, a quest to understand the roots of our culture and our shared humanity. The debate about the historicity of the Trojan War is far from over. Archaeologists continue to excavate at Hisarlik and other sites in the region, searching for more clues about the late Bronze Age world and the potential reality behind the Trojan War. New technologies and analytical techniques are being applied to ancient artifacts and remains, shedding new light on the past. Historians and classicists are re-examining ancient texts and inscriptions, looking for corroborating evidence or alternative interpretations of events. Linguists are studying the evolution of languages in the region, tracing cultural connections and potential interactions between different groups. The search for the historical truth behind the Trojan War is a complex and ongoing process. It is a journey that requires careful consideration of archaeological evidence, literary sources, linguistic analysis, and a healthy dose of critical thinking. While we may never know for certain whether the Trojan War happened exactly as Homer described it, the search itself is a testament to our enduring fascination with the past and our desire to understand the roots of our civilization.